If you got pregnant by your high school sweetheart and if he tells you, I don't want any parts, if you keep the baby, you're doing it by yourself. If you go get an abortion, you're doing it by yourself. As a Christian woman, how long would it take you to forgive this man? Would it take years? Would it take months? Would it take God coming and sitting down on your bed and telling you, sis, let it go? How long would it take you? This book by Kim Cash Tate addresses forgiveness in a very deep way. It addresses abortion, longing to become a mother, not getting married until you're 40, even though maybe you long to be a wife or to start a family years ago. It just touches on so many topics. I'm going to preface this video by saying a lot of my book review assessment is going to do with the female main character Kelli's experience with her abortion, the shame that she experienced. I'm going to start off by saying, at no point are you guys going to see me say in this video, I feel like abortion is right, I feel like abortion is wrong, listen, that is between you and God. I've never had an abortion before. I do know people that have, but I'm not going to say what I feel is right or wrong because it's just such a touchy topic. That is between you and the God that you serve and your spiritual pastor, your spiritual guidance. Now that we got that through, I'm also going to include a lot of testimonials that I saw people expressing their thoughts on their experience with their abortion, whether it was a man, whether it was a woman.
I don't know where you got your information from. I don't know who your source is, but I will be the first one to tell you that is incorrect.
It's something that you constantly think about. Like, you would think it was just, okay, well, I'll go in, I get this abortion, like all my problems is wiped away, I don't think about it anymore, and it's not the case at all.
I was a post-abortive woman who was heartbroken, who didn't think that God could forgive me, who didn't even know how to pray to God and ask for forgiveness. I was hiding my secret of being pregnant, not knowing what to do, but running to the very abortion facility that was lying to me and deceiving me and telling me that everything was going to be okay. Being in those two moments of my past life, I wish that there was something like a shame-free ministry, shame-free Gigi on Instagram, on social media, on YouTube, waiting for me to DM her and say, I need help, whether I'm pregnant and I don't know what to do, but run to the abortion facility, or whether I already had the abortion and I want to stop, but I don't know how to ask for forgiveness. I don't know if he even wants to forgive me. And so those are the very women that I have been able to minister to and have been able to help.
The female main character, Kelli and Brian, at one point they were in a relationship, they were dating. Brian's getting ready to go off to college, and when Kelli gets pregnant, they literally were like best friends. They were intimate. One time she got pregnant, she comes to him and tells him, and old boy Brian is still like, I'm going off to college, so you decide how you're going to handle it. She is a songwriter. She's very big into music. Brian's very big into music. At one point, that's how Kelli and Brian bonded. The night before her abortion, she feels like God has placed this song on her heart, and it's supposed to be like a devotion to her baby that she's pregnant with, and she's really on the fence. She is really dealing with, should I keep the baby? Should I have an abortion? Because I don't want to do it by myself. And when she goes to have a conversation with Brian, Brian's response is just so nasty. Now, at this point, it's 5-10 years later. Their paths have crossed again. And Kelli is really, she doesn't necessarily have a job right now because she just moved back, I want to say, home. She really is just trying to figure things out. So when she is kind of forced into the position of having to interact with Brian again, forgiveness is nowhere in sight. She's not ready. She's not considering talking to him. And the people around them are kind of like, what's up with you two? Like, you guys used to be so cool. Is it because you guys broke out? Or did you guys break up and he cheated on you or something? People start to kind of sort of guess what the issue is. And that happens a lot in church. In churches, we do, sometimes there'll be like the rumor mill where you'll see people being like, oh, well, I did see Sister Sally sitting over next to Brother Kevin, so maybe they're courting now. No one gossips faster than some church folk. And it's crazy because we're not supposed to do it, but it happens so fast. Y'all, Kelli's experience of having the abortion to where she is today, and at this point, the book I want to say came out in 2013. The book is 320 pages. It's available Kindle Unlimited. I listened to it with Libby. You can get it on paperback and Audible as well. Kelli has not dealt really with it. Kelli has taken that abortion, packed it up deep into a bag, buried it like 30 feet underground. She hasn't touched it. She really doesn't want to deal with it. She doesn't want to think about it. She doesn't want to have to talk to Brian and play nice with him when really she almost hates his guts. Because at my most vulnerable time, you left me to figure things out on my own, and that wasn't fair. Even when Brian gets to the point where he is apologetic and he's like, I just want to talk to her, Kelli is like, stay 60 feet away, social distance with me, because I have nothing to say to you. And there were some points where I was like, dang girl, like, but he's apologetic. You cannot rush people to forgive others just because you've been through a similar situation. Maybe you've even been through an identical situation where you had a cousin that you loaned $5,000, they never paid you back, but now that they're rich or now they have a decent amount of money, you still want your money back, but they're treating you like you don't wrong them when you ask them for the money back. Sometimes you'll have family members that be like, why don't you just forgive them? Why don't you just let bygones be bygones? If you really needed the money, you should never loan it to them. People forgive in their own time period. People forgive when the time's right for them. And sometimes, too, when you do try to forgive someone, sometimes you will have family members or friends that'll be like, I would have never forgave them for that. God really lays it on our heart to forgive people for things, sometimes even before they've apologized. Sometimes you have to forgive people knowing darn well they probably ain't never going to say I'm sorry. There's things that I've done to people where I'm sure I have harmed people, I have wronged people in the past, I've rubbed people the wrong way. I probably haven't apologized if I'm not aware that I did wrong them. And sometimes you'll be like, oh, people be knowing what they're doing. Sometimes people really don't know. Or sometimes at the time when things occurred, maybe people just didn't have the emotional intelligence, the self-awareness to realize this wasn't just a small little fault. Like, this wasn't just like I did something simple, like accidentally stepped on your toe. Like, no, you really felt like I kicked you in the leg. And maybe I really did at the time. I just didn't see it that way. Sometimes when people really do hurt us, it is best for you to deal with it internally. Have a conversation with God as many times as it takes. Pray for God to help you to forgive people. Because there are times where we will hold people in such a prison, in such a box of, I don't want to forgive you because it's easier to just be angry with you. I don't want to forgive you because then I might have to hold myself accountable for certain situations or certain outcomes and this and that. And also when it comes to forgiving people, that does not mean that you deserve access back into my life. I can forgive you for saying something weird or strange 5 times in a row last year. Does that mean I have to pick up the phone when you call? Absolutely not. We have nothing more to discuss. I forgive you. I wish you the best. I hope that every time you get an iced tea from McDonald's, it is the coldest and the sweetest that you've ever had. I wish nothing but the best for you. But that does not mean that when you show up knocking on my door asking for forgiveness, I have to open the door, forgive you, and let you inside. That's just not how things always work. And that's what you found in the book with Kelli and Brian. Just because maybe I can exist in the same space as you, just because I see you at church now, I'll give you a praise the Lord, hi, how are you, whatever, and I can still keep it moving. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm holding a grudge or I'm trying to be difficult. It's just how things go. So there also was this author did such a good job of expressing that abortion doesn't just affect the person that had the abortion. It affects men in different degrees. I won't say just the same because, again, this is not a focal point that I can speak on. I've never had an abortion. I haven't been in a relationship with someone that had an abortion with someone else while we were together. So I don't know. But all I can say is it affects a lot of people. Sometimes it affects like the expected grandparents where maybe the father of the child was telling people like, hey, I got a baby on the way, and then he has to go back. Yeah, there's no baby on the way, like she had an abortion for whatever reason. It might affect the grandparents, it might affect cousins, it might affect siblings, it might affect her family. Maybe she was like, okay, I understand you're saying you'll support me as my partner, but I'm not ready, so I have the abortion. Her family might get pissed with her. You never know, but there are so many resources out there. There's so many different places that you can look for people talking about how their abortion affected them and how they felt like maybe God wouldn't forgive them, or they felt like what they did was just so bad that now they're living in shame and they don't want to talk to people. You tell people your story and your experience with an abortion when you are ready. You talk about it in the capacity that you want to talk about it. If you never want to talk about it, that is between you and God and whoever you had the child with or didn't have the child with. There are certain sins I feel like that are more visible than others. When we get pregnant out of wedlock, it's visible on the woman. We can see it. When someone cheats on their wife, it might not be as visible because he doesn't have to walk around with a blimp on his shoulder of I'm an adulterer. But pregnancy just in the span of history, pregnancy has always been one of those things of like, it's an obvious sin. So the shame that comes with it is just so much bigger. Some churches as well too, if a girl gets pregnant, they'll have her stand before the whole church and have to apologize for disappointing the community and this and that, while the baby's father might be 3 pews behind and he still gets to be a deacon. You just never know how it's going to play out. You never know how people are going to receive you. If you come and tell people afterward that you had an abortion, some churches may feel like, oh, you need to step down because you don't really represent the image that we're going for the youth group. We don't want the youth of the church to think that it's okay to have an abortion because you had one at 17. Church folk can be very judgmental. Not everyone is receptive to when you do open up and tell your testimony and things that you experienced in the past. And sometimes people are more receptive if this occurred 5 to 10 years ago. even still, sometimes people are like, a little too soon. I don't really know if you've changed. And I feel like as Christians, we don't give people enough mercy and grace. I feel like when people do come forward and they're like, I had an abortion, I got pregnant out of wedlock as a part of this adulterous affair that I was having, people really look at you like you got ish on the tip of your nose almost. Because they really will look at you like, how could you? Whole time, they might be texting somebody that's not their spouse that they're married to, pictures that are not PG. They might be flirting with their coworker because they feel like they're not getting love at home. Some people really pull up to McDonald's and order 6 different items for just them, knowing they're being gluttonous. But let people find out that you had an abortion, oh my God. It is the end of the world. Now it's, I don't know if I want my kids going over there. I don't know what she's teaching over there. It's interesting. Also, there's a part in the book where a character named Heather, she has an adulterous affair with someone. And the way that people respond to her versus the husband who was literally cheating on his wife, it's like when people see Heather, it's, why is she here? Why do you want to disciple her? Why do you want to try to fellowship with her? You know how much she hurt my feelings. Dana was on one. And I understand Dana's hurt and pain of, yes, Heather did sleep with your husband. But after how much time do you start the process of forgiving this woman? Because you definitely forgave your husband. You're still with him. After how much time do you say, okay, this woman is now coming to church. She's not even interacting with my husband. She seems to be giving her life to God. At what point do you be like, let me give her a break? Now, does that mean Dana has to go be buddy-buddy with Heather just because Heather is this new, renewed woman? Absolutely not. But we don't give each other enough mercy. We do not give each other enough grace. We just don't. And that's why I think, too, sometimes when it comes to testimony services in certain churches, it don't be as powerful and snapping as hard as it could. Because if people could open up and really tell you what they've been through, if they could tell you how they used to smoke crack, if they could tell you how they used to do meth and stuff, that might really be the testimony that helps bring somebody else up out of their mess. People like to feel seen. People like to feel like, excuse me, I'm not the only person that's gone through this, but if we sit on our testimonies, people will never know. And that's something that I'm learning to work on. There's certain struggles and certain things that I've done behind closed doors where I'm like, I'm not quite ready to discuss that. Because you have to feel like it is a safe space. Now, if you're going to a church Bible study and there's 9 of y'all and you guys are opening up and saying what's happening, I really feel like what's discussed in that fellowshipping group should stay within that group. I don't feel like your husband who didn't come to our women's Bible study should know that I had a miscarriage 16 years ago because I kept having abortions when I was in high school. I just don't feel like that should be occurring, but it happens a lot. We do pillow talk and we do tell our spouses things that weren't told directly to the spouse. Let me know what other books by Tate I should be reading. I have read so many books by this author. I listened to Faithful. This author just doesn't miss. I listened to Hidden Blessings, Faithful. Let me scroll down. There was a few more, of course. Amazon is taking its sweet time. But this, I also listened to The Color of Hope, Hope Springs. And I also like too that this author writes a lot of books in like a central area. So like you'll see a lot of them are based either in Hope Springs or St. Louis. And I love that. I love when I can go ahead and pull up on the map exactly where things happen. Let me know what other books I should be reading by this author. I absolutely am getting more into reading Christian fiction because at one point I was just reading a bunch of books all over the place. But then when I did start back going to church and I did start wanting to feel inspired and also feel seen and also just learn more about myself and to try to encourage me in my walk with God, I realized I'm not going to say that it's hard for me to find Christian fiction book reviews on YouTube, but to an extent it does feel a little challenging. I also know that I enjoy looking for books that are written by people that look like me and that tell stories by people that look like me. Does that mean that I don't want to read an Asian Christian fiction? No, that's not necessarily it. But right now, for where I am, I want to see experiences that mirror what I've experienced in the past in Christian churches. I want to feel seen in the books that I'm reading right now. So I'm struggling a little bit to find like true Christian book reviewers where they are really reading Christian books and reviewing them, not necessarily Christian nonfiction. I really am not looking for that at this time, but like true stories where I'm like, okay, I feel captivated by the characters. I see the character development. I see character growth. I see moments of maybe pastors that don't behave the best and people calling them out and holding them accountable. That is just my cup of tea. I am working on a Christian fiction book series myself. I'm so excited. Loving a Memphis Man is a Christian story that is taking on its own life of itself. It is coming out February 26th of 2026. I am super, super excited. because I've fallen in love with these characters. These characters have very raw, unfiltered stories. They're not perfect Christians. I will say this is a clean fiction book, so there won't be any intimate scenes, no spicy scenes, no cursing. There will be some Christian rap recommendations that the characters might be listening to, and not the cheesy stuff that y'all think about like from however long ago. And not super old songs either. I do want to start incorporating in songs that are by artists that are coming up and coming. So the book is available for 99 cents on Amazon. Let me know if you guys have already ordered your copy in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next book review.